Vallow, Daybell. Welcome to the Arizona jail of hell. You're going to learn a lesson now. That's all I can say. Everybody, I'm ARHayes. This is Convict's Thoughts. Let's dive in as good old Lori Vallow Daybell was extradited from the Idaho penitentiary system down to Arizona, Maricopa County, just in Phoenix, Arizona. One of the harshest jail systems in the entire country. Been there, I've done that. And let me tell you, it is sickening the way that inmates are treated there, but even more so, the way inmates handle the politics within that jail system. She's not going to be happy. She is not going to be happy. Obviously, we're talking about Lori, the murderer of her 2 children. Disgusting case, all based off of some cult-like beliefs. Everybody knows the case. Chad is still in Idaho, awaiting his trial. Lori Daybell has already been convicted of the 2 murders of her children, receiving a life sentence. Probably lucky to not get the death penalty. Some sort of plea bargain or something transpired there that worked it out to where she would not receive the death penalty. However, I can explain to you a little bit about the process that transpired, and I'll even tell you about the jail, which is in Maricopa County. It's called Australia Jail in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'll give you some details about that. But let's go ahead and begin on how they actually extradited her. Most big convicted, prison sentenced inmates would be transported with other inmates in what's called a transport unit, a van or a bus. Typically on a van, you got anywhere between 7 to 12 people that are being maneuvered across the country to other places. Typically, it's a privatized company that only will stop along the way at jails or penitentiaries. That's the only place you're allowed to stop for restroom breaks, food breaks, anything of that nature. Because she's sentenced to the Department of Corrections within Idaho, she can also be flown, but because of the weather conditions, Arizona decided to drive up, pick her up, and then escort her back down. And I'm sure it was done via a private transfer company by van. She arrived back just not long ago on the 30th. So she's been through the booking process in Arizona, now being housed within Maricopa County jail system. I've been there numerous times, and it is one of the roughest, most violent, dirtiest jail systems in the entire country, if not the world. Back in the day when it was ran by Sheriff Joe Arpaio, you were lucky to survive a time period within those jails, whether it be a year, 2 years, however long it took you to wait for trial. You were lucky if you survived with the sack lunches that had the emu meat and the old disgusting fruit that was by far past its date of edibility. But even outside of that, the guards just turned a blind eye, and any time a fight broke out, deaths happen. And I've been around a lot of it. I've been, around a lot of issues within those jails. Now, being taken to court there is one of the worst things that you can ever imagine, because they take you literally down into what's called the tombs of holding cells. Let's say your court date is at 9 a.m. They remove you from the jail, drive you over, and take you down into the tombs underneath the courthouse into holding cells that they jam-pack where it's a 5 or 6 man holding cell and they'll have 50 to 60 people in there. Typically, you leave the jail at about, I want to say 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m., and you will sit in those holding cells until they escort you into the courtroom. But your day doesn't end at that, so Lori better be prepared for a good 16 to 18-hour days just to be able to go to court. I know it's literally by the time you walk into the courtroom and you've been laying on the floor and trampled by everybody walking within those holding cells. Some people even may make the mistake and pee on you or whatever might happen. By the time you walk into court, you look like you've been homeless for a year on the streets because your clothes are so dirty, your skin's dirty, and you smell horrible. You just don't look at all presentable for court. So if she thinks that she's going to have an easy time with this, she's got another thing coming, especially when she gets into those jails. I do have to say that they keep DOC sentenced inmates typically separated from the actual normal unsentenced jail inmates, but there are at times they don't have enough room or ability to house people separately, so there will be times she will come in contact with unsentenced inmates. Now, on the female side, it's a little bit different than the man's side. It's a little less political in regards to the gang activity and the violence. On the female side in Arizona, they have what's called a family atmosphere. Whereas on the male side of it, you have the different specific gangs and affiliations that all speak upon people that fall underneath them, and it's broken down by race. For the women within the jails, it's not broken down so much by race, it's broken down by what's called a family. So you will have somebody that has earned their clout or the say, like they've been to the penitentiary and they've got some years underneath them, and now maybe they're coming back. So they have the clout to become what's called the mama. They're the mother. Then you have another female that comes in that's the father. And everybody that falls in underneath that is looking for the family protection would be the children. So they all stand together, but the mother and the father have the say and make the decisions for the group. In the male side of things, there's no family. There's affiliation and gangs, and that's who you run with. That's who you stay with. So, unfortunately, in Arizona, it is more prominent for affiliations or on the female side families than it is in many other states within the jail system because of the fact you're typically more on the move. So, there's more movement, less stability for people to be there for a long period of time. So, you don't get too comfortable with your surroundings. However, someone like Lori Vallow Daybell is going to be there for a while. She's now fighting new murder conspiracy charges, so she will not move in the Arizona system quickly. She will be there a while, which for her is actually not a good thing because she's already been sentenced to life sentences in DOC. So none of this really matters to her. She wants to get herself to the penitentiary because the penitentiary is always easier time than the jail system. People want to debate on that, but trust me, you would rather be in the penitentiary than you would in the jail system because of the fact you get far more privileges. You can get your own TV, commissary is better, food is better, treatment of the actual inmate is better. In Arizona, in the jails, it's horrific. Medical is bad, commissary is horrible, the food is disgusting, and the living conditions are just, they're almost unsurvivable. You will get staph infections, you will get sick, and is a lot of people that pass. Now, how is she going to be accepted when she gets to Arizona is all dependent on how strong she holds herself against any type of threat against her. People are going to test her even on the female side. She will be tested. If she can stand her ground, she will be taken in to a family and they'll move forward with the interactions. Females are not typically as political, nor are they typically as violent to the point of losing your life as what males are. Females are violent, they do fight, but they're a little bit more interactive with each other than the male side is. So I have a gut feeling that she's gonna make some friends that will support her, just like Jodi Arias did. Even though in my mind, I think Jodi Arias actually has a little more mental strength and a little more of a violent side to her than Lori does. I think Lori is kind of more of a mental case that, I mean, it's just me. It's just my opinion. She comes across as impressionable. People can guide her and lead her. And in the penitentiary, that's not going to be a good thing. But in the jail system, it might actually save her life because she'll fall underneath that family housing of Arizona and people will guide her and protect her. So she'll be okay in that sense. But where she is doing her jail time is no cup of tea. It's not going to be something that's enjoyable. She will get no special privileges. She will most likely be in the medium max side of the women's jail, which it doesn't make a huge difference, but it will be a little more restricted and confined than the minimum. Minimum gets to come out of their cell for almost all day into the late evening, watching TV, having more movement. She'll be more restrained. She won't get to come out as much until she gets sentenced and picks where she's going to do her jail time. And that's, or her prison time, excuse me. And that's what's going to be most interesting about it is where is she going to actually do her time when she is sentenced to the penitentiary. In my opinion, she's going to want to go back up to Idaho and do her time. She's not going to want to do it in Arizona because of the roughness of the penitentiaries in Arizona. Again, obviously, I've never been in a female penitentiary. I did know quite a few people that have in the state of Arizona. Within our affiliation, when I was doing my time, we did have a female version of our affiliation that was a part of what we were about, and they were violent, and they definitely ran a very tight ship within the Arizona Department of Corrections. So I have a gut feeling she would rather go do her time in Idaho. It's also going to be very interesting because right now, with the separation, with Chad being in a jail and her being in Arizona in a jail, there is actually no ability for the two of them to write each other as pen pals. Where if they were doing time in the same state, they could get approval for interaction via letter writing communication. At this time, they're not going to have that. I'm sure they'll apply for it, but at this time they won't have that approval. I don't know, and this is something that, I've never really looked into, whether they could actually communicate through their lawyers, where Lori could send Chad's lawyer a letter and he could deliver it. I don't know. I don't know about that. I would think not, but she very possibly could be. Now, the extradition for her was short. I've been extradited. I believe it's going on, well, it was 7 times going on. It's not going to happen anymore. But I was extradited 7 times, some being short, just one state over. But I've also been extradited all the way across the actual United States, from the East Coast to the West Coast. They have legitimately 365 days to transport you. So she's very lucky that her transport literally took less than a week. I'd been on transport, staying at various jails and penitentiaries all the way across the country, upwards of 9 months before I finally got to my destination and started the process to fight my case. So she's very fortunate, very, very fortunate they got her to where she was going as quickly as they did. She's not going to be happy where she's at. She is not going to be happy where she's at. She would much rather go back to Idaho. She was in a much better place in Idaho that she's going to be in Arizona. And I guarantee you, if she gets sentenced, which I have a firm belief that she is going to be found guilty of the conspiracy to commit murder, both on Chad's ex-wife and also I believe it was her brother. There's a few cases that she's intertwined in. She is gonna hope that they run all that concurrent and allow her to go back and do her time in Idaho. Again, just bring you a little bit of updated news. We got more to come today as every day true crime spins its wheels and there's news all over. Coming next, video 2, Derek Chauvin. New information in regards to the attempt to take his life within the penitentiary in Arizona as well. I'm ARHayes. Great to see you. Hope to see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye now.